And thank you for joining us here at Atheists Talk. My name is James Zimmerman. I'm going to be your host for this program. Today we're going to be talking to Erin Manthe. Welcome, Erin.
Hello.
Erin is joining us today because we're going to be talking about Sunday assemblies. Erin has been involved with secular groups in general for over 4 years since you started working with former fundamentalists, a meetup group, and you're now the interim president of Sunday assemblies.
Correct.
And in your day job, you're a math instructor at a technical college.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay, but we're not going to talk about math today. Next time.
I'll try not to.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you can tie it in, go ahead. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about Sunday assemblies, which is something that we've been hearing more about lately. But first, actually, I want to back up because before we talk about that, let's talk about why you're involved. Why the former fundamentalist? How come you consider yourself a former fundamentalist?
Yeah, well, because I used to be an evangelical. I was raised in an evangelical home, and the reason I consider that fundamentalist, I guess, is because we believe that we had sort of absolute truth, and that was unquestioned, and also that there was sort of I've learned since becoming a former fundamentalist that there are stronger forms of fundamentalists than what I experienced, but I still kind of consider myself a former fundamentalist because we sort of had this absolute truth idea, as well as sort of the belief that there's a heaven and a hell, a literal heaven and a literal hell, and that some people are going some direction or the other, that we can sort of know that. And I think the third thing is that we were sort of biblical literalists, or at least we thought we were. It turns out that's actually not really possible, but we thought we were, so.
Sure. So you basically believe that or followed that throughout your
I was raised with it, but I carried it out through some of my adult years as well,
So what made you finally leave your evangelical religion? Yeah,
so it's a series of events, really. I suppose I had some thoughts that made me uncomfortable when I was younger, like certain things that were taught at church not really adding up in other arenas of my life, but I was really content to be going to church and involved with the community that I was previously involved with. I was, for a young person, I was a respected member. I started the Bible study at my school. I was very involved, went on missions trips and so forth, and really enjoyed those experiences, as well as Bible camp and all the whole thing. So I had a strong emotional desire to stay with it, despite some of the things I was exposed to in my science classes and whatnot. But when I was about 24, I was at a Christian bookstore and I picked up a book that looked really interesting to me. It was I Sold My Soul on eBay by Hement Mehta, and he talked about his perspective on, so the book I Sold My Soul on eBay doesn't have anything to do with selling of a soul, nor did he even use the word soul in his original eBay post. So he posted this ad on eBay and saying that, I've been an atheist, but I'm willing to learn, and if someone buys this ad, I'll go to a church service of their choice. And it got a ton of media and press, and it started being referred to as him selling his soul on eBay, despite not actually using that word in the post. And so the person who bought it was actually this very progressive Christian, and he thought it would be fun if he sent Hement Mehta to like 5 different churches. And anyway, so Hement Mehta wrote a book based on that experience of his exposure. Long story short, the book really spoke to me, and some of the observations that he made about church services really hit home. Like, oh yeah, we do that, and that's really uncomfortable. And I just started following his blog, thinking more information and more knowledge can never hurt.
It'd make you more cultured.
Yeah, like
more firm in your own faith, maybe.
Right. I would let's learn what the real defenses against Christianity are and that kind of thing. And I read it for about a year with nothing really hitting me, which surprises me now. But I read it for a while. And eventually, though, there was a study where they had done a comparative thing on prayer, and they had several different groups of people pray for several different individuals, and they've tried to determine whether or not there was some statistical significance to whether the people who were being prayed for had a higher degree of healing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it turns out it was actually sort of negative if you were being prayed for. Like there was a slight statistical negative if someone had prayed for you, as opposed to the other way around, where you think a prayer would help, or that was at least my assumption at the time. And that was the tipping point for me. Like at the time, I was a quality engineer, and we were making most of the decisions we did at work were based on statistical analysis, and I just was like, I suppose I was mad at God initially, or something like that. But I think I was just annoyed. Like, why can't the statistics line up? Like I do all my decision making at work based on a statistical analysis. I've put a lot of faith in that system, and now like the thing I supposedly have my whole life based on can't line up with that. And it wasn't like an immediate switch, or it wasn't like I immediately like stopped going to church after that, but that was the switch in which I started actually investigating all this. Because before I had emotional tie to stay with the religion, and even though I had some of those questions before, I didn't really pursue it because I didn't really want it to know. I wanted to just be safe with my safe people. And when I read that, I couldn't stop. I couldn't look the other way anymore. I had to and once you start reading a lot of stuff and exposing yourself to a lot of different, a lot more information and a lot of science, and I was very compelled by different stories as well. Ayaan Hirsi Ali's story was really impactful for me. But once you do that, that was just the snowball down the hill.
Yeah.
That set it all off. But the thing that confirmed it, I wanted to mention, was this podcast called Reasonable Doubts, because all of the guys on that podcast are former fundamentalists as well.
Oh, okay.
And they actually sort of go through the work of debating some of the popular apologists that defend the faith, and they strip apart those arguments piece by piece. So previously, when I had had some of my own doubts in my own faith beforehand, I would sort of read these popular Christian apologists like C.S. Lewis and so forth, and they would kind of just give me enough to be like, oh, okay, things are fine.
Things are gonna be okay.
Yeah, because at the time I wanted it to just work out. So at any rate, once it became clear that there wasn't this faith that I had wasn't holding water, I left that community kind of begrudgingly, because I think I enjoyed it beforehand, or at least many aspects of it.
Yeah,
but
you must have liked the social aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of heading up the Bible study groups and the missions, now you're heading up the Sunday assembly. How did you get involved with the Sunday assemblies?
Yeah, so I was a little bit skeptical when I first heard about Atheist Church, as it was being dubbed in the media. Initially, I thought, I didn't like it when people were preaching at me beforehand. I didn't want to have people preaching atheism to me, even if maybe now I feel more strongly akin to it. But my friend from former fundies, he was like, I'm just going to ask if anybody else wants to go to they're going to have this initial startup meeting, and they were posting it on a few of the secular groups besides their own. But they were posting on humanists and skeptics and a few others. And at any rate, so I signed up for the initial planning meeting because of a friend, Jay Bickford from Former Fundamentalists, kind of urging other people to attend. And I was like, well, I would be remiss if I didn't at least give it a shot.
Sure, yeah.
And I went and I loved it.
Oh, okay.
And I just told everyone, I was like, oh man, I was so excited. I went in very skeptical, and then I met all these people, and I realized this is what I had begrudgingly given up when I left my faith at that point 4 years ago, because I missed the community. I miss the community aspects. I miss those things.
Sure. Well, now that we've traced your whole story here, so now we can go back to square one, which is, what are the Sunday assemblies in a nutshell?
Yeah. So Sunday Assembly it started in London. It was two comedians who had this novel idea that, why does church need to be just for the religious? It could be a lot of fun. And so let's take all the best bits of church and make it for people like us. And so they got together and put together kind of an inspirational talk with some singing and social games, and they called it Sunday Assembly. And
how long ago was that?
That was in January 2013. That started in London.
In London. Oh, okay. So that was only a few years ago.
Yeah, it's relatively recent.
Okay. How long have they been active in the Twin Cities here then?
The first planning meeting was in January 2014.
Okay.
And we didn't have our first service until June 2014.
Okay.
So not quite a year.
And you were involved right from the start then, that you said. So
yeah.
What makes a Sunday, well, we kind of covered that. What makes a Sunday Assembly kind of different from other secular groups? Because they're already, there's the former fundamentalists, there's several other groups in the Twin Cities, Minnesota Atheists, Humanists of Minnesota, of people who get together to do good and to be social without religion involved. Right.
So the one thing that I think is different, well, former fundamentalists is very much kind of a support group in nature. It's a very select group of people, a lot of people who have been, unlike me, I guess, or less like me, have been very burned by religious experience and get together to kind of process that. Yeah. I should mention too that as much as I had some I missed parts of my church community, there was things I was happy to move on from too, and it helps me process that at former fundies as well. Yeah.
So, so what makes it different? What makes the Sunday Assembly
so what makes the Sunday Assembly different? Well, I think former fundamentalists is more like a support group, and Sunday Assembly is more like a celebration group.
Okay.
We get together and kind of move. We're not talking. It's a post-religion. We don't talk about religion one way or the other. We're not there to bash it or minimize our experiences with it or anything. It's just not there, not in the conversation. So I think that's different than other secular groups as well, which are often talking about why we're not religious. We don't usually talk about that. We just talk about things that we're enjoying now that we don't have to worry about whether a God's going to smite us.
Sure, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So then, do you have people who attend who would say that they're religious or that believe in God?
I guess, yes. I would say, the one person I know that attends that says that they believe in God definitely defines God a very different way than, it's like connection in the world is love, and so which is fine for them. It doesn't interfere with Sunday Assembly, but we wouldn't talk about God in that way either at Sunday Assembly. Not from the. I'm hesitant to use the word preach, but we wouldn't preach about God in any way. But people could come there and potentially have a God belief of such, and a fundamentalist God belief wouldn't last long, or you'd be annoyed on some level, but.
But just a God of good feeling.
Yeah, but a God of good feeling, you can have that.
The force.
Yeah.
So it sounds somewhat like UU churches.
Yeah.
There's several in the Twin Cities here.
Right.
So do you want to maybe no, please do contrast that.
Okay. So it is a little similar to the UU church in the sense that it's kind of a non-religious but religiously feeling gathering. But I think one contrasting thing is that we aren't religious, or we don't consider ourselves a religion, and I think Unitarians sort of do.
Yeah.
And we don't really educate on religious things, or so we wouldn't be so people can come and have a view of whatever, they can think whatever they want to in their heads, but we're not going to endorse that. We're not going to say like, I think in my process of leaving Christianity, I like attended a couple UU churches, and I think one time the minister was saying to the audience like, if you want to, you can pray to a tree, or if you want to, you can pray to tomorrow. We wouldn't talk about prayer or, and I know that some UU congregations are a lot more secular. I think the other difference for me, and this is maybe more of a surface difference, but I like the choice of music and the lack of liturgical goings
Trappings.
on. Yeah, like I like, it's a little more up and coming with the modern day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's kind of step through what a typical Sunday assembly would be like then.
Okay.
We know what it's not like.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the positive aspects.
Yeah, let's do that. So Sunday assembly, we always pick a theme, and it could be something like play was one of our themes. Actually, I did a talk once. We had a theme on math, and we picked some songs that go with that. And some of the songs are just kind of community fun songs to sing. We do the Cheers theme a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so we picked some songs to go with that theme. We have a speaker that talks about that. For instance, I talked about like the beauty of numbers and how many different patterns we can see in nature. And then we also have a social game, like sometimes it's like a rock, paper, scissors competition, or there was a penny game where you pick up the penny and you read the year and then tell the group that you're with what you're doing in that year. Or
what you did in that year?
What you did in that, what you did in that year, thank you. Yeah, and then so sing songs, there's a speaker, there's games, and we also have someone share a story about themselves that might relate to the theme.
Okay.
And we have a reading, and that could be from anything. We don't have a set text, but this last Sunday assembly was on pets, and the reading was from All Creatures Great and Small.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is your speaker someone from the group?
Most of our speakers have been outside the group.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How large is the group?
We have over 300 people on the meetup site, and as these things go, about 50 or so show up on a regular basis.
And there's just one in the Twin Cities metro area?
There's just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the demographics as far as like age of people, I suppose?
Pretty wide range of ages. A fairly consistent group in our mid-30s or early to mid-30s.
So I want to talk more, I kind of skipped over this a little bit, but I want to talk more about like that it started in the UK in 2012, and by 2013...
It started in 2013.
And then by 2014, a year later, a group was being organized here in the Twin Cities, which isn't usually considered at the forefront of European fashion here. So it seems like it really surged quickly. So can we maybe fill in the history of that year?
Sure.
A little bit? Okay.
Oh, I can try to do my best.
Yeah.
So yeah, January 2013, they had the first service in the UK, and that got a ton of publicity. I mean, you start saying things like Atheist Church, and that just, I think there was a major NPR article that got written, sorry.
You teach math, not English, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So NPR, so the United States picked up on what was going on, and did that help to bring it over the ocean then?
I think so. And they were contacted. The people that started it were contacted by LA. New York initially had one. Theirs kind of fizzled. So people around the world contacted them and said, "This is a great idea. I want to do it. Help me get started." And they were like, "Okay, let's do that."
So that was pretty quick then.
Yeah.
I would say. So do you know how many exist in the United States?
I don't know. It's around 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Usually no more than one in the metro area. Probably.
Right now, yeah, about
and
that.
then what about worldwide? So there's definitely some in the UK, but where
There's
else?
about 10 or so, 10 to 15 in the UK, and like 4 or 5 in Australia.
Oh, okay.
And there's one in, that's a good point. There's also a few in Germany. I believe they're trying to start one in Africa. I don't know where in Africa,
Oh, okay.
sorry, but
I'll just list off countries and you tell me when it's up.
okay, no, I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a few all over. Yeah.
Okay. And then, I just lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you a question about it. Oh, how long is the services usually? Do you call them services?
Yeah.
Okay.
For lack of a better word, I suppose. 1 hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any publicity for the one in the Twin Cities here on the radio or on?
Yeah,
media?
KSTP Channel 5. They picked us up
Okay.
for the when we did our service in September. That was quote unquote the global launch.
Oh, okay.
And so I think 80 worldwide started at that time.
Oh, okay.
But
Like all in the same month or that very same Sunday?
that very same Sunday.
Oh, okay.
They tried to coordinate it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So that was on September 28th. That was so once they got all this feedback saying, we'd like to start one, they actually sort of tried to get organized with it. I think LA and a couple others were like sort of ahead of the game and got more organized before they were as organized as they are now. But once all these people said they would want one, they were like, let's try to make it kind of this coordinated effort and big publicity event. And on September 28th last year, 2014, they had their global launch. And so I believe it was 80 that started at that time.
So you just mentioned a little bit about coordinating it between the groups. So how united or coordinated are all the groups worldwide or here in the United States at least?
Well, we have like an internet network.
Okay.
So we all kind of connect on there, and there's an annual conference now. There was one last May, and there's going to be one this May as well. So there's those connections. It's kind of expected that you try to follow the Sunday Assembly format. They have these ideas about how many songs and at what point you have the reading and at what point you have the story from someone and the speaker. But you're allowed to sort of, rearrange that if you so choose. But there's no song set list. There's no set song list. Sometimes people are trying to figure out what songs to sing because it's actually hard to find good sing-along secular songs that don't mention prayer. Like we did,
sure, yeah.
that it's amazing how many secular songs have the word prayer in them or God somewhere.
Yeah, make some sort of reference, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then we still want to keep it sort of family friendly, so that limits a bunch of...
Oh yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, nothing's family friendly.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's more challenging than you would think, and then you also have to think of songs that people can sing along to.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's sharing of songs, but there's no expectation that you're going to sing certain songs. They give you some recommendations, they want you to keep it sort of upbeat, as much as that Imagine by John Lennon is an amazing, good secular song. It's sort of sad and slow and not really a good song to get people
motivated.
Yeah,
very mellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they recommend not doing that one, I guess. But
so I asked about the demographics, about ages, and then I wanted to follow it up by asking about people's backgrounds, and I completely lost my thought there. But I wanted to ask, so we know your background is a former fundamentalist. What would you say the group, especially the active group that shows up on Sunday, is mostly made out of people who have been atheists their whole life, or people former Christians or other religions? What do you even know?
I don't have an exact answer, but there's a good chunk of us that are former religious, variety of different religious backgrounds, not all fundamentalist religion. But there's a handful of people who have been atheists. We had some people who were UU. And I don't know of anyone that was a former not Christian, former religious person but that might be a lot to do with our current, where we live.
Yeah, just Minnesota in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if people want to learn more, to get involved, well, let's start with that. If people want to just get involved with your Sunday Assembly, what should they do?
The easiest way with the most information is meetup.com's site. We do have a web page which will also link you to meetup.com's site. And there's also a
And we're putting the link on the screen.
Yes,
so, yeah.
good. It's right here, I
Yeah.
think. And we have a Facebook page, and we do post the big events to that as well. But meetup.com, that's where most of the main communication comes through.
So just sign up to find out. Where, I guess I should ask, where's the location?
Oh, yeah, we meet on the second Sunday. Oh, so that's one thing that's different than a regular church, is we only meet once a month.
Oh, okay.
So we meet on the second Sunday of every month, and we're meeting in the basement of the First Unitarian Church, which is 900 Mount Curve.
Oh, okay, in Minneapolis. Okay.
Yeah.
So once a month automatically makes you 4 times better than any religious service. Right?
Yeah,
At the very
that's what
least.
we.
Yeah. And what time of day?
It's at 2 p.m.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to get up early
no.
either.
Wow, this is.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, and then what about you mentioned like podcasts, or if people just want more information about.
The website has a fair amount of information.
Okay.
The International Sunday Assembly website would have a lot of information about the background, the people who started it. Their names are Sanderson and Pippa. Very good British names there. And so yeah, the main website, sundayassembly.com, would have a lot of information about just general Sunday Assembly stuff, where it started, what's it about, that kind of thing.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming onto the show and talking to us about this topic that's taken off and gotten really popular really quick. Even a couple of years ago, it didn't even exist, so that's really fast. Yeah, so good. All right, and thank you for watching our show or listening to our show. If you'd like to learn more about Minnesota Atheists, we encourage you to contact us. We have a phone number, mailing address, a website, all listed on the screen for you. If you contact us, we'll be happy to give you a copy of our most recent newsletter, the Minnesota Atheists. It gives articles about the atheist community in Minnesota. It talks about the times and locations of several of our meetups. If you're interested in us doing any program that you're interested in, please let us know, because we'd be happy to do a show about a topic that interests you, because if you're interested in us, we're interested in you. So thank you again.